Hi, welcome back to Book Chats from Lonsdale Public Library. So I am using my incredible powers of deciding what I want to talk about my favorite books that I read in 2021. Who says I can't? I'm sure it's not a surprise to you that people who work in libraries tend to be big readers. I was very proud of myself that I reached my goal of 100 books this year. Let's not talk about how many Penny read, which is a lot more than me. But so of the 100 or so books I read, there's 6. One is invisible. These are the 6 that I think will just really stick with me. I'm going to start with one that isn't here because it's checked out. It's still a pretty new book, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. If you like The Martian, which I loved, then you'll like this one. Like that book, it's sci-fi, full of action. Let me just tell you the premise and see if you're hooked right away like I was. So a man wakes up in a room with 2 dead people. He has amnesia. He quickly realizes that he is on a spaceship and he's very far from home and he's all alone. Are you hooked? I'd be hooked. So it's as his memories come back to him, Ryland Grace realizes that he may be humanity's last hope. So he has to solve a series of troubles to save the day. It has a good, strong grounding in realistic science, but it's also an exciting story. I've heard it's been purchased for a movie, so hopefully they do it justice because it is a fun read. And then the next book I want to talk about is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, which is a 2017 book. I know I'm a little behind. I'm kind of late to the party on this book, but I couldn't talk about my favorite books of the year without talking about it. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it by this point. It won a lot of awards. It's also generated some controversy, which is what happens when you deal with difficult issues in an honest and visceral sort of way. It's about Star, an African-American girl who lives in a tough, urban, mostly black neighborhood, but goes to a posh school in the suburbs, mostly white. And so there's already sort of that tension between her 2 worlds. And then her childhood friend, Khalil, is killed by police, despite being unarmed, and she witnesses it. And so she finds herself reluctantly at the center of a national controversy. And I like that she's a believable character. She's not a saint, she's just a teenage girl who wants to live her life, but she's put into a difficult position where whatever decision she makes is going to be hard and painful and possibly dangerous to her. So it's a really very well written. It is gritty. I recommend it highly to teens and adults, maybe not to younger kids because it's got some language and some pretty serious stuff. Then I want to talk about Shell Game by Sara Paretsky, which is actually a 2018 book, but I'm, again, a little behind. But what's cool in the book world is, of course, I read a lot of reviews. I see a lot of books come through. So I always sort of am learning about who's the hot new young author, who's the latest thing. But it's also really cool when somebody that you've been reading for a long time manages to keep surprising you, keep it fresh and exciting. So that's the case in this book, which is the 19th entry in the V.I. Warshawski mystery series, which Sara Paretsky's been writing since 1982. And yet, it's exciting. Vic, as her friends call her, is a tough Chicago PI. This is no cozy mystery. This is a sort of a classic hard-boiled kind of story. And in this deliciously complicated plot, she investigates a young man wrongly accused of murder. And then while she's doing that, her own niece goes missing. And she ends up entangled in this complicated series of plots involving ISIS, the Russian mob, white-collar criminals, rogue ICE agents. So there's peril, there's thrills, but as always, Vic saves the day. So if you like a classic old school mystery, highly recommended Shell Game. Then we have Kent State, 4 Dead in Ohio by Derf Backderf. If you are close followers of our book chats, which I'm sure you watch everyone religiously, you will have already heard me talk about this book because I mentioned it in our in my graphic novels for grown-ups talk. But it's definitely, of the books I read this year, one of the ones that's really going to stay with me. So forgive me if you've already heard this, but in an incident that still feels relevant 50 years later, on May 4th, 1970, the Ohio National Guard gunned down unarmed college students protesting the Vietnam War. And, sorry, I got a sucky candy. 4 students were killed, 9 were injured and wounded. And what really surprised me, what I didn't realize until I read this book, was that half of them weren't even at the protest. So they sent in the National Guard, but they didn't cancel classes. And the whole thing is just, it's a crazy story that you wouldn't believe if it wasn't true. And the author did a really good job of researching the lives of these, particularly the 4 students who died. And you just get to know them, and so it really, you feel it when they get killed. It really, if you feel like you're too grown up for graphic novels, you know, you don't want to read superheroes, this book really shows the possibilities, because it hits you in a really visceral way that maybe reading about it alone wouldn't do. Then, We Were the Lucky Ones by Georgia Hunter. This is from 2017. And this was actually a book chosen by our public book group. Brief plug. We meet the first Thursday of every month in the library at 6 o'clock. Everyone is welcome. And this story, you wouldn't believe it if you didn't know it was true. It's about the author's family, the Kirks, who in 1939, they're a successful Jewish family living in Radom, which I'm probably saying wrong, Poland. But then the war comes, and each member of the family faces a series of challenges just to survive. One sibling is forced into exile, others are separated and sent all over by the vagaries of war. Each of them is forced to confront hunger, fear, the shadow of death, you know, not knowing if they're going to see their loved ones again. And boy, there are some harrowing moments. It's just amazing that they survived. But driven by an unwavering will to survive and the fear that they may never see one another again, the Kirks must rely on hope, ingenuity, and inner strength to survive. It's an amazing story. It's very well told. Highly recommended. And then I'm going to end on a lighter note. Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is a 2021 book. And I don't know how to classify it. Is it humor? Is it a mystery? Is it family? Is it romance? It's kind of all those things, but overall it's a hoot is what it is. It's about Medi Chan, who works with her Chinese/Indonesian American mother and aunties in the wedding business. But when Medi accidentally kills her blind date, oops, don't feel too bad, you kind of had it coming. Her opinionated mother and even more opinionated aunties get involved in trying to dispose of his body. Unfortunately, it ends up being shipped to the exclusive island where they're putting on an over-the-top billionaire's wedding. So just when you think it couldn't get any more complicated, along comes Medi's lost true love. So hijinks ensue. It's kind of crazy, lots of fun. It's a delightful mix of suspense, humor, all the different flavors of love. So if you're looking for a little fun in the beginning of this new year, dial A for Aunties. All right, thanks for stopping a little time with me, and we'll talk to you again in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.